Welcome everyone at tonight's event. I'm Christian Srnečić, the moderator of the panel discussion titled Beyond Borders, CEE Legal Professionals in Global Roles. I would like to draw your attention to the possibility of asking questions. They will be discussed at the end of the webinar during the Q&A section. We have two speakers today. On the one hand, Martin Ursi, on the other hand, Orestis Omran. Martin is a partner in the corporate finance team at Addleshaw Goddard in London. He holds a law degree from LTE and an LLM from New York University. He specializes in international infrastructure and energy law with a particular focus on the green transition, whereas Orestis is a partner at DLA Piper in Belgium and the head of the firm's Greece country group. He is based in Brussels. He obtained his bachelor's in law in Greece and then completed an LLM at the University of Chicago. Regarding his expertise, he focuses on EU regulation, energy and infrastructure law, and cross-border transactional matters. So please feel free to adjust the introduction during answering the first question, which would be reflecting on your early career. I reckon both of you have been working abroad for quite a long time now. Martin, you started in Budapest at an international law firm and moved abroad around 10 years ago, whereas Orestis, you started in Brussels at the Commission right after graduation. For most of the lawyers, these would be atypical paths, even among business lawyers. How did you land these opportunities? What motivated you? Please, Martin, take the floor.
Want me to go first? Yes, I really love virtual conferences because I can't see whether everyone is already asleep, but we will try to put everyone to sleep as we go along. So as Christian said, I practiced in Budapest for about 10 years, almost 10 years before moving to London. And I always wanted to do international stuff. And early in my career, I realized that I made a huge mistake. And that is to become a lawyer, because lawyering or a law degree would tie you into a particular jurisdiction. So I spent the rest of my career to try to make as much good from this early mistake as I possibly can. And what I have done is I've done an LLM in New York, so I could sit the bar and become New York qualified. And also I've done a transfer exam in England and Wales, so I become an English solicitor. The reason for that is if I get dropped off a plane in a random location, I will be good with either English or New York law, so I can practice pretty much anywhere.
Thank you. Orestis?
Yeah, I think that, well, when it comes to myself, I also studied partially in the US. I did an LLM at the University of Chicago, as you mentioned. I was in Greece before that, and I actually started working abroad immediately after that. So did not really go back to Greece, although currently I'm doing lots of stuff that operate around my jurisdiction. But yeah, I went to Brussels, actually. I started with a commission. Is that a typical path? I don't really know. Back then, basically, you know, it was like we would apply everywhere. International locations actually in Europe include Brussels, Paris, and London. In my case, I wanted to do more EU law, so I was applying in law firms in Brussels. I was relatively junior because I went to the US actually immediately after I graduated from law school. So yeah, so basically, you know, you gotta take your shots and apply to every possible position, and then life takes it from there, I guess. So I did start the commission and then started private practice with an American law firm in Brussels, and ever since, like, I've been there for like I mean, not at the same firm, I changed firms in the meantime, but I've been doing that for 14 years now, which means that, yeah, it's a certain pathway to growing an international practice if you start practicing immediately after law school in a jurisdiction other than yours.
Regarding your first cycle degree, both of you studied home, so Martin in Hungary and Orestis in Greece. So have you encountered any challenges related to your Hungarian or Greek education? Was it an obstacle when you applied abroad, even for the LLM? Or rather, it was something that you or the business world considered as an advantage? Orestis?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's certainly different. When I first went to the US, as I said, I was pretty young, and the system was different, and it was a completely different experience, even compared to what I was expecting. I knew it was going to be different. I knew it was going to be tough. I knew it's a different legal environment, but yeah, it's actually changes your perspective entirely. Not only because of the culture, not only because of the legal system, but I think it's also because of the fact that it's a new world. Like everything we are witnessing right now, everything we are doing now, it actually starts there. When I first went to the US, I had no clue about international law firms. I come from a country where there are very few international law firms operating on the ground. So even like 15 years ago, frankly, it wasn't very, I would say, usual, very regular to even go in the US. So it was few of us that, took that step and decided to go to the US and study there. And then obviously, continuing after that was part of the broader transition process. So yeah, it is different. It was a bold move back then. Now I see more and more younger people like attempting to go to the US, more of them actually making it. Many Greeks do that. It didn't used to be like that. It was also the financial crisis back then. So I guess it played a role, a significant role in the decisions we made. But yeah, I think it's a bold move, and I still believe, even when I'm hiring right now, I do have a soft spot for US graduates, because I do feel that they've been through a lot. It's a difficult system, especially if they pass the bar, as Martin said. So I think that yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but still very, very doable.
Martin?
Christian, there were two sides of it. There was a bad side and there was a good side. The bad side was when I got told that, you speak English with a funny accent. You come from a funny jurisdiction, which is a bit barbaric. You will never be able to make it. You will never become a real practitioner. You will never be able to speak as eloquently as those people who are blue-blooded and have been a British monarchy and been in the profession for 600 years. Now, that was the bad thing. The good thing was where this came from. It only came from my imposter syndrome. No one ever felt me being any less qualified to advise either under English law or New York law as anybody else. And actually, if I look around in my current environment, I've got some Poles in my team. There's a Lithuanian in my team. There's a Finn in my team, and there are people from all different places, and they've all got a role to play. I'm in an international environment, so almost everybody speaks with a funny accent and have a different path, the way they came into this career. So that is the good side of it, Christian.
Okay, so Orestis touched upon a little bit on the next topic, and it would be LLMs. So let's say even hiring practices in the global hubs like London or Brussels. So when you see a CV, how important it is to have an LLM, and well, Orestis touched upon it a little bit, so for him, I guess it's matters. Also, how important is the fact that the LLM is from a common law jurisdiction, or the only thing that matters is that someone went abroad and experienced another legal culture, even if it was continental? So what do you think of that, Martin?
Well, I mean,
or Orestis?
yeah, sorry. I thought you were addressing that to me. It's fine.
Both of you can start, of course.
All right. Thank you. Well, I mean, it plays a role, absolutely. I mean, everybody has an LLM nowadays. So if you want to pursue an international career, I think that, it's very difficult to do it with just your LLB. I think you need some sort of specialization. You need some sort of international experience. Obviously, if it's from the UK or the US, where the admission practices are very specific and it's very tough to get in, especially in the top like 2, 3, 5 universities. I think that definitely plays a role. And I don't think it's only the experience, because obviously, the cultural experience plays a role. You want people who are whose mindset is actually international. So that's very, very important. But I think also you need the level of English that you can cultivate when you study abroad, when you really have to use legal terminology that is not, your local legal terminology, the way you express yourself, the way your legal thought is developing. All these kind of things you can really learn in an LLM, especially in the US, partially also in the UK. So I think it does play a role. And yeah, as I said before, I have a soft spot for US graduates, and obviously the fact that somebody might have passed the bar in a common law jurisdiction, should that be a solicitor or a New York lawyer or a Californian lawyer, whatever, I think that also plays a role. Not necessarily because we practice US law. Like my current practice it's like less than 10% US law, although I'm a New York qualified lawyer. But I think practically understanding common law, especially when you're doing complicated transactions, is very important, because it would be either mostly English law applying or US law applying. And that's also in the capital markets segment of an international practice. So there are certain segments of an international practice where common law practices, common law UK or US apply. So it's certainly a very good thing to have, and a plus when we are considering applications.
For us, it's completely different, and the reason for this is diversity and inclusion, and what that means to us is access to the profession. So it used to be the case that you have to spend a long time in uni where you're unable to earn, so the profession was restricted to people who could afford to go to school for a really long time. And we realized that this attracts certain people to the profession, but it doesn't give access to the population at large. And you want to be in a room with a diverse set of opinions and experiences, because we believe that a team is composed of a multitude of views and a multitude of roles. And this is really important for us. So if I interview someone, I'm not allowed to see the CV. It's a blind interview process exactly for this reason. And we're making huge steps forward to make the profession accessible to those who can't afford a law school. So now there is an apprenticeship scheme that we are really, really proud about, that you can come and join us as an early stage in your career without having done not only law school, but any university at all. And the pathway is longer. At the end, you will see the same exam, but it will make you a fully qualified lawyer in our team, even if you come from a background that doesn't allow you to go to law school in the first instance. And we are extremely proud of that.
How does this work in practice? So let's say someone doesn't have a law degree. I'm not sure about the British system. You may don't have a bachelor's there regarding law, and then you specialize later as you do in the US. But let's say there's no law degree, and then they get into your program. How do they become an actual attorney later?
There is a government-recognized apprenticeship scheme, which means that they can join as an apprentice. They will spend 5 years of us learning on the job, and then they will do the same exam that is expected from everyone who wants to qualify as a lawyer. And if they've done 5 years with us and then they've qualified, then they will become. They see this exam, they will become a fully qualified lawyer. So it's an additional pathway in addition to the traditional pathway, which is of course still open.
I see. And do you consider this approach successful? So do you have people already been through this procedure, or is it a quite new initiative?
It's quite new. We're really excited about it, and there's only a handful of firms that offers that, and we're one of those. I am confident that this will be a really successful, because it opens up the profession, and also it makes people who are able to become lawyers who haven't been able to do that before.
I see. Interesting, absolutely. Regarding bar admissions, we touched upon a little. So as far as I know, both of you are admitted to several bars across the globe. So in the US, in the UK, also in Greece, also in Hungary, and also in Brussels. So it doesn't apply to all of you. But my question would be whether you could touch upon the procedure on how could you get admitted to, let's say, the UK bar with a foreign degree. That would be the question from Martin. And I would ask Orestis on the Brussels bar. So as far as I know, you are on the E-list of the Brussels bar. So if you could elaborate on that, the procedure, the requirements, it would be appreciated. So please, Martin.
I'm really sorry, Christian, but I will be pretty useless with this answer because the rules have changed and I have no idea what the current rules are. But the way I have transferred, that was before Brexit. So I was able to transfer my Hungarian legal qualification to an England and Wales qualification with a transfer exam. The most interesting thing, well, I can't give you any practical answers, but I can give you an anecdote that because we were part of the EU, the UK was not allowed to ask for a language certificate from us, Hungarians, but they could ask for it from anyone coming out of the UK. So all my American friends and Australian friends had to sit a language exam, and I, as a Hungarian, didn't.
Orestis?
Yeah, well, as far, I mean, my UK qualification, again, the rules have changed. I did the SQE, sort of transfer exam, so I was already qualified. So it's an exam that anybody who's actually qualified somewhere else in the world and wishes to become an English solicitor does. It was quite straightforward because I was also a New York lawyer, so it actually most of the principles were actually already known to me. So it took me less time to study. Like I took like 6-7 weeks overall to study and become a solicitor. You asked me about Brussels though. And yeah, Brussels is not a big thing. The e-list, it's a European directive that says that every bar should actually keep registrations of EU lawyers practicing in that jurisdiction, and actually describing the specific rights they've got when it comes to practicing local law or practicing EU law in that jurisdiction. So particularly Brussels has that e-list where actually EU lawyers are registered. We do have there is no exam practically. You just have to bring about some documents and prove your current qualification, and then they put you in a list and you pay every year, have your annual fee, and then you can do certain things in terms of local law. Not that we are really interested in practicing Belgian law. We don't have to. It's not part of our practice. But I think it goes up until being able to litigate before Belgian courts, but you have to be escorted by a local Belgian qualified lawyer. But there is still an option. If you really want to practice Belgian law for some unknown reason, you can still take an exam, a more complicated exam, and then you can still be transferred from the E-list to the so-called A-list. The A-list is the actual Belgians who practice local law. So it's not a complicated thing. It's just a registration practically with some formalities that you have to undergo. Not any specific language requirements. You have to actually choose whether you want to be on the French-speaking or on the Dutch-speaking part. I speak French, so I went to the French-speaking part. So not big of a deal as opposed to New York and UK, where you you actually need to take a rather complicated and complex exams to be able to be licensed to practice there.
Thank you. Also, I would ask you another question, Orestis. So you are a leader of the Greece country group, and as far as I know, there's no DLA Piper office in Greece. So how does it work? Let's say, do you have a team of Greeks here in Brussels, or do you coordinate somehow as the Greek operation of DLA?
All right. Yeah. Well, I have 6 Greek qualified lawyers working in my team in Brussels, and another 3 in other jurisdictions. So we have more or less 10 Greek qualified lawyers that can practice Greek law in the firm. The Greece country group, instead of an office, is basically an internal thing in those jurisdictions where, for any reason, we don't have an actual office. We operate country groups, which means that it's a level above a country desk. So we are not just, passing on documents. We are actually practicing local law from abroad to the extent we can, to the extent we have the expertise. And basically, this was something I came up with when I realized that if you want to have a successful international career, yes, you have to internationalize yourself as much as possible. You can go study abroad. You can pass all these bars, be in an international law firm with lots of nationalities, attorneys from lots of nationalities. But practically, if you want to be successful as a partner, you need to have your own clients. You need to have a client portfolio. And the most obvious thing when you are a Greek practicing in London or in Brussels, I think and the same applies to Spanish people, Italian partners. They're going to look at their own jurisdiction and try to actually get clients from their own jurisdictions whereby these clients have some sort of international and extrovert approach, lots of presence in other jurisdictions as well. So for me, it was my way of combining my nationality and my actual, primary legal education with trying to get in the clients. And I think that works very well, because if you do it right, even though we don't have an office, it can have a very positive inbound and outbound effect, because not only you target all these national companies, like top 10, top 20 national companies that can afford your fees and that have activities in other jurisdictions outside Greece, so you can be very helpful as being a partner in an international law firm. But at the same time, and that's also very important and very lucrative, you can target all the international businesses that do business in your own jurisdictions. Jurisdiction, in my case, in Greece and Cyprus. And I'm going to put it very simply with an example. Deutsche Bank or the Bank of America, both are my clients. They wouldn't hire me to do some New York deal. I'm a New York qualified lawyer. I know my stuff, I believe so, but obviously I'm not the obvious choice, a Greek practicing in Brussels, to do an American deal, or even an English in the UK. They would nevertheless hire me to do a deal in Southeastern Europe. So it's a matter of approach and how you can leverage on who you are, how you can leverage on your education, on your nationality, on everything you've got to create a client portfolio, because eventually this is what matters. If you get at that level, you need to have your own clients, you need to have a practice of your own, which is in any way your safety belt in this kind of situations.
And you worked in the commission for half a year, as far as I know.
Correct.
So what do you think on the idea that some people say that if you stay at the institutions, you end up in a golden cell, which is quite nice for a time, but it's hard to get out. And then you switch to the private market. And now, as you just described, you have a lot of opportunities as being a partner, having your own clients. So what would be your advice if someone wanted to start their career? Focus on institutions regarding EU law, or try yourself in the private market?
Well, I do respect that choice. I would not support it. In my case, to be honest, I had to fill a gap because I was supposed to go to London, had a 6-month gap. So my story is pretty much I would have to go back and just party for 6 months and then start private practice, because my position was starting 6 months later. I had this offer by the commission. It was a 6-month contract, so I went to do it because I wanted to fill up my CV. So to be honest, it wasn't a very conscious choice to start a career in the institutions. And frankly, it was though a very interesting experience, to be honest, seeing things from the inside. And that's what made me think that, some people describe it as a golden cell. Some people want to point out the fact that you have permanency in your job and you have a very decent salary going forward in your years and job safety and things like that. But frankly, it cannot be compared. Like the excitement that you have when you do private practice, when you are an actual lawyer, cannot be compared if you practice law, even at the most prestigious part of the commission. And I was actually part of that. I was part of the legal service. The legal service does litigate actual EU law cases before the courts in Luxembourg. So even there, to be honest, and although I was at a very young age, I saw things moving very slowly. It's a different pace. It's a different kind of environment. I do respect people who want to make a choice after 10, 15 years of private practice, and for any reason they want to go in-house or they want to go work for the institutions because they realize that's not for them. But I would not encourage a young, very motivated law graduate. I think there are many options rather than a career from scratch in the EU institutions. Although I do respect the choice. It has certain things to give. It just wasn't for me.
I see. Thank you. My next topic would be your achievements. So what are you the proudest of regarding your achievements, or what was the most exciting challenge that you faced during your career? And I would give the floor to Martin.
Thank you, Christian. Well, every job comes with its own challenges, and sometimes you nail it, sometimes you are kind of less proud of what comes out of it. But I always am the happiest when I act opposite someone who then, after the deal, comes to us and say, well, they liked our performance that much that they would want us to represent them in their next case. And my favorite deal was exactly that, when we were acting for a telecoms company with a deal with one of their suppliers, and the suppliers didn't want to say no directly, that they are not interested in this, because they wanted to retain the relationship. So they thought what they will do is that they will say yes, but and will make the terms such that they will just obstruct everything. So we've sat in a negotiation room, and whatever we said, they automatically said no to. And we found a solution to every one of their objections. And in a matter of they took a couple of months, but we wore them down. And in the end, they signed on the dotted line. And they were so impressed that they came and said, we want you guys to come to us and do a training for all our contract managers. And we would like us to work on their next gig. So that's something I'm really proud of.
Orestis, what would be your?
Well, I think that some very good points raised by Martin. Indeed, when that happens, that certainly gives you some pleasure. I think I do enjoy those times where something seems that it cannot be done. People tell you that cannot be done, that transaction cannot be done. It's very difficult, has never happened before, and then you find a way through. That sort of, the eureka point of that, where you're actually, putting all your knowledge and all your effort and all your time to find out a way to do that. That's actually what is helpful for the client. Because let's be honest, like, especially in the transactional world, there are tens, hundreds, thousands of attorneys that can actually do a transaction, and they will do a very decent job. But the client pays our rates and actually hires us to add some value in what they do. And this is where you see the actual added value, when the lawyer comes up with a structure, comes up with the wise solution, which might not be that wise, but it's actually something that is a product of our intellectual capacities, and actually shows to the client that we can do more than putting together very good and very solid transactional documents. So every time that this happens, every time we have to face a challenge to do a deal, every time that a client seems unapproachable, and then we can still get them in because we do the right pitch, we find the right people within the client, all this kind of seemingly difficult moments that you turn around and you make it seem easy. These are times that I really enjoy what I really do.
See, so both of you mentioned transactions, and nowadays everything, let's say, affected by the artificial intelligence, and even a few years ago now, we have softwares, let's say due diligence softwares, that could be quite helpful in reviewing documents. What are your experiences regarding AI, even in contract management or contract drafting, or any other aspect of a transaction? Martin, if you could.
So I always, when people ask me that, I always reflect on my first job, which was the best job and the worst job I ever had. I started at Linklaters in Frankfurt. A part of my job was to find obscure solutions in German corporate law, which I really enjoyed. But then the worst part of the job was organizing a physical data room that no one does anymore, which was the size of this room, all in folders. Whenever you needed to add a new document, I needed to manually renumber all the documents, and that was a full-time job, and I absolutely hated it. And thank God that no one has to do that again. With every innovation, it chips away from the stuff that we don't enjoy, so we have more time to focus on that what we do enjoy. So the trainees today have a lot better way of actually learning on the job, because they don't need to do these menial task of manually checking through documents, which AI does nowadays. So in our firm, we've got about 40 people who do nothing else but testing new technology and finding new ways to make that work for our clients. And that means that for generative AI, we've kind of hard tested about 70 to 75 different products and figured out use cases for our clients, and some of that is quite before. So we actually actively use it. We think that is great, so everything that makes our job better is welcome.
And
Yeah, I actually agree with that. If I may take this up, I think it's a good point of view. Indeed, everything that makes our lives easier, that's more than welcome. I was a little bit skeptic, I have to say, in the beginning when all these AI tools came in and they were saying that they're going to replace lawyers and stuff like that. But I think you need to strike a balance there. We cannot really be replaced in that sense. We can really create efficiencies that, as very correctly pointed out by Martin, can actually help us focus on the substantive part, on the more essential parts, on actually showing our capabilities. And I think there is nothing wrong with having all this, the software that allows you to create these efficiencies. I think more and more is yet to come. All law firms are working on different products. Indeed, we are also working on a very big program here, trying to, use innovation. And we have been, awarded multiple times for this kind of stuff. I have to admit, I'm not the most tech-like person, so but I do enjoy when I see my associates coming up with all these very speedy solutions, because they find a way to use from ChatGPT up until a very specific program operated by the firm, where you can actually find solutions in due diligence and actually help our work and make it more efficient. So I think if used wisely, AI can be a very productive and very useful tool in what we do.
And what about the side of the client? So in my experience, some of them are afraid of the fact that not a, let's say, natural person, the one who's reviewing the documents, but a machine, at least for the first time, and they would prefer humans do it. Of course, when they see, let's say, the bill, which includes AI, then they may change their mind. Have you experienced such behavior from your clientele?
Well, in our case, not really, simply because we wouldn't do that. We cannot do that. You need human intervention. You can create the efficiencies I discussed before, but obviously you can't have a program, putting together a due diligence report. You have to double check. That's what limits your time. So you have the program sorting out certain information, but then you have to go back and check, and that limits your time. It's more efficient and more cost effective for the client, but frankly, I think we are accountable for our work. So I need my lawyers to be able to give an actual answer on a specific query raised by the client, rather than saying, well, it was the machine that picked this up, and we draw that conclusion because some sort of program picked this up. I think that's not a good answer, and I think that clients reasonably and naturally should actually react to that. So it's a combination of the human intellect with the powers that AI can give you. It's never, at least at this point, the moment we are discussing, I think it should not be just any software doing your job instead of you, and then presenting that to your client without the human intervention.
Martin, what's your experience?
I think you need to have an honest conversation with your client. So if a client tells me that they want there's something to be done by all humans, then of course we'll do it by all humans, and of course that will have a cost implication. Sometimes the client will say, well, we would like you to do it 20-40% more efficiently, and said that's all right. We can put all these contracts through a machine, but then that has some risk to it. In that case, you will have to accept those risks. The same thing is that there is a combination of the two, say putting like all the contracts through the machine and maybe spot check 5% of it. But the client will have to agree to what the approach that we're taking. They need to be comfortable with what it costs, and they need to be comfortable what the risks are. And so there is an education process.
Yes, thank you both for your answers. Now we received question regarding an LLM in New York City. So the question is the following. It is addressed to Martin explicitly, but of course, Orestis, you can reflect as well. What is your advice to a fresh graduate who wants to do an LLM at New York University and in New York in general? And also, if you could include any advice regarding your career, so someone who wants to follow journey like you did, what would you advise besides New York City?
Do you mean whether to consider anything else but New York City, or what, or is that specifically in relation to New York?
I believe the question states an interest at NYU. Yeah.
Yeah, then my advice is totally go for it. I love my experience at NYU and also in New York in general. So what attracted me to New York is not only NYU as a law school, which is of course a fantastic law school, but you will probably find 100 really good new law schools in New York. What really attracted me to it is the access to the finance world. And I was lucky enough to be there in 2008 and 2009 when the whole world came crashing down, and then Lehman Brothers happened, and then the Bear Stearns happened, and we had the chairman of the New York Fed coming to present to us, and he's admitted that he has no idea what's going on. So having access to the best speakers, professionals in the New York City ecosystem was what drove me to it, and it really delivered. So I've met the all three living founders of Vector Lipton. I've met many professionals who are on the top of their game, and they've done lectures and they've done seminars. So that what drove me to New York, and also New York as a city was a fantastic place to be a penniless student in.
Have you received any scholarship?
So I was there on a Fulbright.
Okay, thank you. And Orestis, what would be your takeaway regarding an LLM in the US? So you did Chicago. So what advice would you give someone considering pursuing such a journey?
Well, it's an amazing experience. It's certainly something that changes your life, it changes your perspective. You will meet people that you wouldn't have met otherwise. Not only professors, but people from the market. You will see how the American way of life goes, and that's something that we might have misunderstood here in Europe in many different occasions. So the cultural element plays an important role. And I think, when I went to the US, frankly, I thought I was going to become a constitutional law scholar. I wanted just to go do American constitutional law and then basically get a PhD and teach constitutional law somewhere in the world. That was my aim. That was my goal. So a few months later, after I joined the law school, I was looking into law firms, applying everywhere because I wanted to pursue a completely different path. I actually got convinced, and I was given all the ammunition and all the information I needed to make an informed choice about how my, at least short-term career should look like. And I think that's very important. It cannot really happen elsewhere in the world. The American educational system is a very sophisticated one. Law schools are, in the top of the world. The American law schools, for a specific reason, they do have the resources, they do have the human capital, they do have the experience, and obviously they operate in the largest market in the world. And for a lawyer, that's something that cannot be replaced very easily. So if you are there, you are at the right place at the right time. I think it's only gonna do good to your future career, and I would certainly advise people, if they are able to do it, to certainly go for it.
Thank you for addressing the question. This is an ending question. I will touch upon the most, I wouldn't say most, but harshly debated topic, especially at Big Law. So what are your thoughts on work-life balance, especially regarding junior associates, and also now as your partner? So how did it change, or how did it evolve in the past and now? What are your thoughts on that? Martin, if you could.
So there are very few expressions that I hate more than work-life balance. If I was Trump, I would slap a 200% tariff on it. And the reason is that if it implies that you wake up in the morning, get a shower, get a breakfast, you go to the office, and then you die. Then sometime in the evening you kind of resurrect and go zombieing in the nightlife of wherever city you are in. So I think it is a terrible proposition, and everybody who are thinking of this way, I would really seriously question their life choices. I mean, wouldn't you consider work to be a really important part of who you are and what you do? So I'm not trying to completely shut out work when I'm off, or I'm traveling, or I'm with my children, or I'm on holiday. In fact, if I don't have access to my emails because of my travels, that makes me anxious. So I spend a couple of minutes every hour or so wherever I am to check in. I mean, but my team is great and they always take care of everything, but I need to be on top of it, and I don't think that is a sacrifice, but it's because I love my job, and I'm not trying to completely shut it out from my private time.
I see. Orestis, do you agree, or do you have a different opinion?
I have an identical opinion, to be honest. I hate it when people use the phrase work-life balance and things like that. I mean, work is part of your life. It should be part of your life. And if you make it part of your life, you're going to enjoy it. If you feel that work is actually blocking you from living, then you are probably in the wrong line of business. As simple as that. Is it tough? Yes, it is. Do you indeed need to check your emails even when you are on vacation? Yes, you need. Does it have all-nighters? Sometimes still it has all-nighters. Is there pressure? Yes, there is pressure. Is it competitive? Yes, especially with these youngsters that are very smart, very well educated. Yes, there will be competition. But I mean, frankly, I think there are many workplaces like that. So we should not condemn, the legal industry for that. I think you should make your work part of your life, and that's how you're going to enjoy it. That's how you're going to complain less. And I think modern law firms, especially in big law, have many opportunities these days that have made it a lot more easy than 10, 15, 20 years ago, where it was really tougher. Technology helps. Flexible working, remote working also helps to a large extent. But in any event, what I would tell to somebody whose first question when they're going to be interviewed for a law firm is, what is going to be my work-life balance, and when I would be able to go home, then they could certainly go to the commission or to any other EU institution. That's a better place for them to live, because obviously there is a certain timeline and there is a specific way of doing your work. But obviously your motivation would be less, and your ceiling will be rather very low. That's not the case in big law, and I think it shouldn't be the case in any other line of business.
I see. Thank you both for the answer, and also thank you for this discussion tonight. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and also I'd like to thank everyone who joined us as attendee today. Feel free to check the website of Arzvani Legal Fest, and if you like any other of our events, then register and see you there. So everyone have a very nice evening.
Thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.